what goes on a lot in martial arts is that the reason people begin is not the reason people stay, right? So if someone comes in and they say they want to develop confidence, they want to be able to fight the bully. I mean, well, in America, they used to have an ad in the back of a comic book by Joe Weider and it said, "Fear no man." It was like an ad where when I was growing up, it was very famous, where the guy's on the beach and the bully comes up and he kicks sand in his face and he's got his girlfriend, and the guy gets the girl. He's embarrassed, right? So it says, "Fear no man." So it talks about the weightlifting program, the Joe Weider weightlifting program, and Fear no man, right? So the guy goes, he does the program, he becomes very muscular and he beats up the bully and he gets the girl back. But even today, that mentality is pretty much alive and well, right? That idea of, being better, being stronger, being the winner, right? But the philosophy I see today in a lot of the competitive aspects of MMA or even commercial karate schools, it doesn't teach the traditional ways: discipline, self-respect, honor, integrity, self-discipline, right? Those kind of things are sort of put on a shelf, and it's all about winning at all costs, right? By any means necessary, which, I get it. If you're going to be doing a sport, I understand that because you want to win, right? It's competition. But when you become a bully and you become someone who's abusing his new skills or new talent, whatever it might be, then you're not a martial artist. You're just a thug. You're just a bully, right? So martial artist, by definition, you have to emphasize the word artist, right? Martial is the idea of war, god of war, right? Mars. And artist means, well, you're an artist in the art of war. But most people today are neither martial nor artist because they're not practicing real martial. And the artistic aspects, where they're imbuing in their DNA that code of honor, the ethics and the morality that goes on with being a good human being, is lost. So I think that there's a good and a bad to this modern idea of so-called, martial art, right? I believe that there needs to be some integrity. I believe there needs to be some respect. I believe there needs to be some honor. There needs to be some love. Not only love for yourself, but, love for continuing on the art and love for each other where you don't hurt each other. I mean, the idea of being an uke, like an aikido, or other arts that help you develop, right? Polish your spirit. The idea of an uke is to allow you to polish the mirror of your soul, right? So you can get better at what you do. So that person is a reflection of what you're capable of or what the potential is that you have. If that person is going to resist you, and if that person is going to give you a hard time because that technique's not going to work, then that relationship is not a relationship anymore. It becomes abuse. So there needs to be a process of helping each other in the dojo where you become better people, right? And ultimately, I think that that's a big piece that's missing because people would rather just, be victorious or get that choke in or get that arm bar and see, but how is that becoming a better person? I mean, that's really the question, isn't it? How is that becoming a better person? So I think that part of the philosophy you asked about earlier is sometimes missing a lot in so-called martial arts schools. People are being taught something very, very different. I went to a fencing school to visit years ago, commercial fencing school, and the people who were the teachers there were very well known for teaching competitive fencing, right? They had a team and all this kind of stuff, and it was a nice school. I was watching a couple of the young kids practice, And I come from a traditional fencing background, right? So respect your weapon, right? So one of the kids was doing a fencing match about another kid. Something happened where the kid got really, upset. So he stops and he turns around and he takes his epee and he just like throws it on the floor, and he steps over it and walks away off the piece that they were practicing on. And the instructor, the maestro, the Sal instructor, didn't say anything. Just kind of let it go, And I'm thinking to myself, well, how are you teaching etiquette? How are you teaching honor? How are you teaching valor if you let this kind of behavior proliferate within the school? What you're teaching is again how to be a thug, right? You didn't get your way, so now you're going to behave like a disgruntled athlete, right? A thug. So I didn't see any discipline there. I didn't see any honor. I didn't see any integrity. I saw a young child who acted like a young child, and there was no development there on a level of honor or integrity. I would have called him back and said, "What are you doing?" First of all, if he was my student, he never would have done that to begin with because he would know better, right? That wouldn't even have happened. But if it did, then it would be like, okay, you got to come here. We have to talk about this. This is incorrect behavior, right? So one of the main things I want to just say is, when you're in a school and you're practicing, that one of the things you have to always remember is do no harm, right? Mentally, spiritually, physically, to the people that are trusting you with their physical selves. Do no harm. Don't become a cult leader, right? Don't get in people's business. Know your limitations. I mean, how many times have you and I seen martial arts schools that become like a cult, right? The instructor is like another god, right? Running people's lives and telling them what they can wear and who they can date. And I've seen it all, believe me. That's ridiculous. What does being a sensei have to do with telling a woman how she can dress when she's not in the school, or who she can date? Well, you can't date that student because he's another student inside the school. No, come on, man, really? What are you doing? They wanted, it's none of your business. I've had teachers when I went to train with other people on my days off from that school, they would tell me, "Oh, you have to leave the school. I'm kicking you out because you're training with two of my ex-students in another school." I'm like, well, what's that got to do with my time here? I mean, I'm paying my tuition. I'm a good student, one of the best you're going to have on the floor, right? Dedicated, never miss a class. I'm not mixing what they show with what you do. I keep things separate. What's one thing got to do with the other? But it was about control, right? Issues of control and dominance, like a cult leader, And how many cults do we see that they tell you, "Oh, you can't talk to that family member because they're not part of our religion," right? And they separate people. We see it all the time, don't we? Hear about it on the news all the time, right? Jonestown and all this kind of craziness that goes on. Jonestown happens in dojos all over the world in a minor way with the control and craziness that goes on, right? The very second a student feels that their dojo is Jonestown, they have to leave because that's not dojo anymore. That's cult, right? You understand?
Yeah.
So, there's got to be a separation between that, between what is real and what is not real. But unfortunately, most people don't know what they're looking for and they don't know what they're looking at, right? So what do? They go into it blind with a great deal of trust because that's what they believe is reality, right? So it's buyer beware,
Yeah.
man. You gotta know what you're looking at. You gotta know what you want, because it goes back to what I talked about a second ago. The reason you join may not be the reason that you stay, right? Because you might have joined because you wanted confidence, or you wanted to get in shape, or you wanted whatever you wanted. But the reason you're staying is something different, because now you're learning the art and you're learning, fascinating techniques and transitions and combinations and all these things. So your interest is there. So you stay, right? that wasn't a reason that you joined initially. So the reason people stay is not the reason that they joined, right? That changes over time if they stay long enough, right?
Yes, sure. Thank you so much for your answers.